Hi, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. And I'm an evolutionary astrologer, energy worker, medium, channel, do all kinds of different things to try to help you understand how to live in better or healthier or more grounded and sane ways. So I've taken time the last couple of weeks to make videos on different aspects of how I perceive and understand the bigger picture of the coronavirus or the COVID-19 situation and people being on lockdown, et cetera. And as far as, so this is number 2 in the series of dealing with grief or on grief. And this is going to be about letting go. A little deeper exploration, kind of a rambling, half-channeled exploration of some things that may be helpful as you think about or experience grief during this time, as it may happen for you and in other people and in the collective. I do want to put your attention on resources for the short term. Number 1, Cerealia, which is a festival of Ceres, finding the inner nurturer. That 2-week home study channeled course is on, and that starts April 19th for 2 weeks. So I'll put the link in the description of the video to that. That's to uncover patterns of care and love so you can become the source of love for yourself. Get away from patterns that keep you from self-validation and self-nurturing that you may have learned when you were a child or since. So that is on, even though lots of things are changing and schedules might be changing for a lot of people, that is on. Also, the Energy as Money as Energy 7-week webinar starting May 16th is on. That's a home study, not a home study thing, it's with me on a webinar 2 hours every Saturday for 7 weeks. And that's to help you get to the bottom of emotional and energetic issues and contours and blocks and patterns that create issues about money in your life. And then also in the short term, I want you to explore what it's like to connect with the energies of 2 of the beings I channel. So last week I made available 22 channeled energy work meditations wherein I channel Ascended Master Jehudi, also known as Thoth, Hermes, Saint Germain Merlin, and also Archangel Metatron. And you can connect with their energies through the voice on the recording, the energy in my voice on the recording. So there are 22 MP3s that are each about 20 minutes long. So it's quite a significant thing I'm making available. I really want you to explore getting connected, getting in your body, getting rid of energies that don't belong to you, making empowering decisions as we live in this context together where a lot of people are feeling fear and uncertainty, and we don't even know how long the uncertainty will last. So anyway, so there's that. If you want to donate to support that, there's a link on that page on my site, and I'll include it. So I'll always appreciate it if you want to send energy back my way, if you derive benefit from them. So let's talk about grief. In the first video in this series, let me just look at my notes briefly. I encourage you to go listen to it, or watch it. But I talked about different kinds of things that can inspire grief: disappointment, loss, death. A dream deflating or something like that, missed opportunities. And why we don't deal with it. Of course, you know why. But I went into some detail, and then I talked about holding space for grief and letting waves of emotion rise up instead of tamping them down, letting them unfold, right? Feeling the feelings. So this part 2 is called Learning to Let Go, or On Letting Go, something like that. And sorry, I just made a mistake here. So I want to get into what it looks like and what's it about, what's going on. My intention with this is that you might be able to, if you're finding sorrow and grief and despair come up and you're saying, okay, Tom Jacobs, I will explore holding space for this and remembering that I'm stronger than whatever the feelings are that I have, and I'm not the emotions that I do have. I'm not my history, my experiences, and I'm not the pain or fear or guilt or whatever that I may have. The next step is really dealing with the parts of you who have experienced loss, the feelings of loss. So how can we let go? What I want to put your attention on includes, if it's a person, how can I let go of a relationship that may have ended or changed for any number of reasons, I want you to realize that this framework, who you got to be with that person, is a source of fulfillment for you. So what that person brought out of you, what you felt in dynamic or in relationship with that person, you loved. That person brought something out of you, and it makes you more loving. That part of you may sometimes feel like a missing link, and only certain people, or perhaps that one person, brought that out of you. So if that person for any reason goes away, well, yeah, you don't feel as complete. You don't feel as whole and entire within yourself. So this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to let go sometimes, because we don't feel as complete as that person made us. Well, also the similar situation with an opportunity or a way of living or an opportunity or the ability to do some hobby that maybe our bodies or life has changed and we can't do it anymore. How to let go? Well, who did you get to be with that person, or because of that behavior, or because of that way of life? Who is it that you got to be? What part of you was validated? This is really where we want to go with this. What part of you was validated by that external connection that made you feel more complete within yourself? So it's a kind of simplistic way to look at this is, what did that person or thing bring out of me? Who did I get to be in that dynamic? So when you understand what that is, and that sometimes takes some time with the sorrow and the grief, but once you understand what that is, you can choose to own that quality of yourself for yourself. So this person is no longer here, or this relationship, or this way of being, this lifestyle, this opportunity, this way of being is no longer here. So I don't express the part of me that that thing or person brought out of me. So how can I own that within myself? Let's say that somebody brings out a loving, protecting, nurturing part of you. And then that person goes away and you're like, well, now what am I supposed to do? Right? Let's say that person brings out your creativity. Let's say that person brings out your sensuality or the comedian within you, or the person who can brainstorm and be really confident about being optimistic toward a certain kind of future, or that a future can be created. Well, this is a true part of you. This is a real thing that for any number of reasons you have not known or seen how to own to be complete within yourself. So here's another way of looking at this. That situation, that person brought this out of you. Let's look at these things, these people in your life and situations, as important teachers or important teaching opportunities for you to become more whole. Now, on the first pass of your thinking about it, let's say that's about a person from the past or a person who's even passed away. Who did I get to be with that person? Part of you won't have an answer on the first glance. But as you go within to really feel that and let that settle in, you can remember what part of you is no longer activated, right? Sometimes it takes some time to identify the details, is what I want to say to you. But once you understand that, you can choose to be that part of you. You can choose to be that. You don't have somebody automatically or through chemistry pulling it out of you. Okay? But you can remember what it feels like to be that full version of yourself, or that more full version of yourself. And humans have a wide variety of relationships over time in order to pull different things out of us. So we can either learn to own it, see, own, and embrace something about ourselves, a bunch of things in turn, or see, own, and let go of something in turn. Because also you have relationships that bring out the things that are not so fun about you. That's also true, and that's normal for how souls as humans are wired to have and learn through relationships. Okay, so that's about people and situations. And when people essentially come and go in and out of our lives to activate certain things within us. Within me, I'll just give you this quick example. I can think of several examples. Once I had a relationship where my cynicism came out. Another one I had a self-doubt came out. Another one, my sensuality came out. Another one, my creativity in general. And then also my playfulness. So we have these series of relationships over time with friends and family, and also love, sexual, romantic relationships that pull different things out of us. So we sometimes can see patterns over years. And I think about this quite a lot with the way that I'm wired for my multi-life journey with a lot of Libra stuff, if you're into astrology. Okay, so that's about people. But the same thing, that's about people who come and go in relationships and letting go of things like that. Moving into, and that's a valid form of grief. Like, we're no longer together, we're no longer friends, we can't interact anymore. That's a valid form of grief. Let's take it a step further. And all of that is true, but then plus, let's say a person has passed away. A person you're connected to. There are three parts of this video. One we just did. Number two is this. Number three will be the collective thing. But let's say somebody you love has passed away and you have yet to learn how to really grieve that. Let's say you watched video one and you said, yeah, Tom Jacobs, I'm willing to be with that feeling or find out that I'm stronger than that pain or emptiness or whatever. Well, so ask yourself who you got to be with that person, right? A loved one who passes away, you probably have a very deep multi-life connection with. The deeper the death affects you, the stronger, the more I don't know if the right word is valency. Oh my gosh, high school chemistry. The more points of connection and the stronger the bond may seem, right, with family and then certain loved ones, right? We have multi-life connections. The bonds are stronger. Again, who do you get to be with that person, but also this idea of safety and security. So it's not only that person brought something out of you that helped you like yourself and feel more complete within yourself. It's not only that. It's also that certain relationships with depth of connection and even longevity, they help you feel stable. So when somebody passes away, that thing you've created together as humans, the thing that you perhaps rely upon them for, sense of stability or longevity or consistency, that's gone too. So how can I grieve? How can I be willing to feel the end of my sense of safety and security? And so part two of the video says, my suggestion or recommendation in part two here is, recognize that people come and go from your life on a regular basis to show you things about yourself, things you need to see, own, and embrace, or see, own, and release and get rid of or change. So in this context with death, it's more change that pushes you into your evolution. If you derive a sense of safety and security from a particular relationship, and that relationship changes, or the person passes away, or it goes away, or the person does, through death, well, you're pushed into your evolution. So again, grieve it, let those feelings unfold, listen to the parts of you that need to speak and express and articulate things. But understand that change is inevitable. Now, what humans do quite often is pursue a sense of safety derived from external sources. That's one of the big things going on in the collective about this whole economic slowdown, people passing away, the levels of illness that we're seeing, and that we'll see more and more over the next few months potentially. It is going to be more and more. Like I do check every day, several times a day probably, my curiosity about this page on the Washington Post that tracks the numbers of infected and also deaths around the world and in the US, broken down by country and then broken down in the US by state. And part of me, is doing it because I want to be aware. Part of me does feel a little sensational fear about it. But I've told that part, the first part, I want to be aware, has told the second part, sensation, fear is seductive, has told that part that it will grow quite a lot. And so if you're checking numbers or hearing newscasts and you see a very serious television personality or newscaster or whatever, broadcaster, report that number and part of you goes, oh, it's even worse. It's going to get worse. Know that. Not because you should be afraid or depressed about it, but because it will, especially here in the US with the lag on testing materials being available and distributed. It will. Prepare yourself for that fact. Some people don't want to hear that. But I'd rather you not assume the worst, but prepare yourself for this so that you're not worn down or ground down as you learn the numbers as they grow. That kind of leads into step number 3 for the video, but I'm not quite done with number 2. So people come and go. Sorry, let's backtrack. People come and go in your life over years and decades to show you things to own about yourself or things to release. Own and embrace, or own and release. If you can own these things people show you about yourself and own them or release them, right? If you can keep them or get rid of them, those things, those aspects of personality or those expressions or patterns and behaviors, then you are collecting aspects of yourself to create more of a sense of inner safety and security. Parts of you may look to the outside world for a sense of safety. That's what I wanted to get at, blending parts 2 and 3 here a little bit. If you let your energy field sink as the numbers go up, part of you will feel that external circumstances can affect your sense of being secure in yourself. So parts of us chase external safety, and when we can't get it, we don't know what to do. And that's when we give into fear. If you're familiar with my work, I've been spending years talking about getting grounded, getting centered, keeping your consciousness spread out throughout your whole body, being aware of what your feet are touching at all times, to have a sense of not just up in the brain, which is seduced by fear, because your brain is trying to create contingencies for what to do, because it's either trying to control things or it's bothered that it knows it can't. You don't know what's going to happen next. I don't either. I don't know how high the numbers on the Washington Post tracking the spread of the virus page. I don't know how high it's going to go. I have kind of an expectation in my head. It's just basically a random number. It's not truth, but it's a lot higher. It's a lot higher than what it is now, what is reported now. But like it even lists like this country or this state, the change from a day or 2 or 3 ago. And it'll be like some places like up 40%, up 80%, right? Because more numbers are being revealed, right? The truth of what's the situation on the ground is actually being reported as more people get tested. It can be easy in that space for your brain to say, oh, it is getting worse. Well, it is spreading as it is, especially as, some people, especially here in the US, and I know that the president of Brazil is doing this too, downplaying it. So people might not be physically distancing themselves and staying home, might not be taking seriously that they could be relays or vectors for transmission to other people, right? Not taking it seriously that they are not just their egos, but they're part of this whole organism, which is all life on Earth. Anyway, we don't know how high that number is going to go, but does that mean that you're not That doesn't mean you can't be in your body. Does that mean you can't be sane and collected? Does that mean you can't be grounded and do everything you can to make sane decisions from a rational place? Because people are getting sick, because people are passing away, does that mean you can't think straight? Does that mean you shouldn't give yourself the opportunity to be clear and think straight, right? That's really the reason why I offer the 22 channel meditation, so you have a chance to connect to Jehudi and Metatron and feel your vibration change, to have a sense of that center thing. So anyway, parts of you will chase external safety when you need to develop internal security. In a given moment, can I make decisions with the best possible info that I can trust? Can I trust myself? This comes from the grounding process. So that's part number 2. And part number 3 is this thing about the collective. Grief, dealing with grief, letting go regarding the collective. Yes, as I said, people have been getting sick and people have been dying, and more people will do each. And yes, we need to grieve for that we're all connected. We feel sometimes each other's pain. Yes. You have fear. Your friends and loved ones may have fear. Maybe people you know or people you've heard of are getting sick. Certain celebrities you've heard of are getting sick. There will be more just because of the odds and the numbers. And people you don't know, many more people you don't know are dying than people you will know, right, who may pass away. So we do need to deal with collective grief as well as collective fear. So I would think of it, this is how I'm kind of thinking of it, in tiers. Number 1, my personal grief. My awareness, number 2, my awareness of the collective, and the fact that I, do care about what happens to people, and I'm aware of the pain that people are experiencing. The more grounded I am, by the way, the less I'm affected by what I read in the media or listen to. So that's another tip too. Some people might feel it's a better bet to stick their heads in the sands and not be aware. And I understand that. I don't have any criticism for that. But I think when I started doing my internet radio show, The Soul's Journey, in 2012, I realized one of the things, I didn't know this about myself. I had my head in the sand, and I started keeping up with the news more often because I wanted to understand collective or global trends and issues so that I could, broadcast on the show thoughts and suggestions and bird's eye view perspectives from the beings I channel and try to understand bigger things. So I started getting more aware of politics and things that were going on in the world, and starting in 2012 because of the radio show. And it hasn't really stopped since I started that in October 2012. The show went for 3 years, but I haven't really stopped that, being aware of it. But I've learned how not to be upset with stuff I read, except for Trump's endless lies. That upsets me. But the other things I can kind of ground and, and work with. So anyway, this video is coming to a close. This is part 2 of dealing with grief. Actually, you know what? One more section here. And it is that this idea of like, I have been changed by the loss I've experienced. I may perceive I'll never be the same again. This comes up when we talk about what healing is as well. Is healing being made whole again? Well, you can't change the fact that you lost a loved one or you were really hurt by something. You can't change that. But if you look at people and situations coming to you to pull out of you your learning journey, your learning lessons, then and then you own what you got to be or who you got to be, those aspects of personality and self, then it's easier to let go if you don't expect yourself to be able to forget something. You're not here like you're not doing it wrong if you have pain or experience difficulty, including loss or grief. You're not doing it wrong. These are vehicles for human learning. Your soul knows you will at times experience these things. Your soul doesn't intend you to be hurt, but it knows it's an inevitable part of the human journey. Pain. So you're not doing it wrong. So as you're trying to move on from grief, Don't expect yourself to forget or judge yourself if you can't. What you do is you go through this process where you acknowledge the feelings, you look at who you got to be, you understand what that person or situation brought out of you, you realize that part of you may have felt safe and secure, and then you resolve to develop inner security and develop more self-trust. These are all the steps that I wanted to lay out in this video. So stay tuned for more COVID-19 videos. I do have a lot to say. I have a whole list. I'm going down the list making the videos. And also, I really want you to check out those 22 channeled meditations. It's really important to be intentional with what frequencies or what vibrations you are running. Not all of us can be 100% positive. I'm certainly not. But to return to centered is super important, and the vibration of those beings can help. One woman in Canada wrote to me, I think the day after, 2 days after I posted those MP3s. She downloaded them and listened to a couple, and I guess it was the third day. So like night one, she listened to one. The morning of day two, she listened to the same one. Night number two, she listened to a new one, and then the morning of the third day, she listened. And then during the day, after having heard two of them twice, somebody said something that triggered her, and she remembered a sentence that Jehudi or I said on that MP3, and she understood what button within her was being triggered, and she didn't have to react. So this is a really big deal for energy management and therefore health and immunity on all levels. All right. So thanks for your time and energy. Stay tuned for more, and take care of yourself.